what that is? Discipline. Selfish.
No joke. We're legitimate.
Fucking do this, then do it. Do it 100%, because I'm trying to.
We recognize that we are limitless.
You gotta be a champion to become a champion, right? Winning is a habit because we create habits that lead to good execution and success.
Hey, welcome to the Coaches Show. I am Ryan Gray, and with me is
Mike Bianca from the New Orleans Hurricanes.
and we are filming episode number 1 right here from the 2023 World Cup of Paintball.
That's right.
How's it going, Mike?
It's not going well, Ryan. And now for the weather. Anyway.
Okay, less about how is the World Cup going?
The World Cup is outstanding. I believe we have the largest attendance in World Cup history at this event, and that's incredible. That shows a tremendous growth in the sport, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah, so I think Vince is going to share a little more on that. The weather has been great. There are a ton of vendors here. It's exciting. Like, one of the things that I keep telling people is this feels kind of like that 2006 era, right?
I don't think you could have put it any better. You know, back to the old town type worlds from the early 2000s where everyone's getting together, everyone's bringing their best game, and it's fire. Is that the nomenclature the young ones use these days? It's fire.
Stop capping.
All right.
So,
Bouger.
we have a full show ahead of us. We're going to bring Vince on from Let's Talk Paintball to drop a little bit of news about 2024 and a few other pieces of things that are going on in semi-pro. We're going to bring our correspondent Haley Leva on, who's going to discuss what's going on with the WNXL. And then you and I are going to chop up the layout a little bit, some things we see, some teams doing well, and then we'll talk about our own teams and what they didn't do well.
That's right.
That sound good?
That sounds great to me.
All right, and then we'll close out with some things we're going to discuss for our show and what's coming and what you can expect from us. And welcome Haley Leva from the WNXL is going to share some exciting news with us. Haley, how are you?
I'm good. We're like super excited to be here. I play with Team Destiny. We just have one more game to play, and I mean, we've been trying to win World Cup for a while, so I'm super excited. And there's so many girls at this event, like the most female that we've ever had in attendance, which is over 130 girls playing in the WNXL and NXL. We have the amateur division and then 12 teams in the pro division now, so super exciting to see all the females. I mean, never seen this many females at an event before, ever. So.
And how are the teams from Europe doing?
The teams from Europe are playing really good. Like, we played Belladonna yesterday, and they're dominating. Like, I don't think they've lost at all any of their games. Wow. And we didn't know how to play them right because we've never played any of those teams. And they very heavy on their gun skills. Like, we played Karma too, and they're a very aggressive team. We haven't played Dracana, but I've heard they're also a really good team. But they're playing really good. Like, I mean, no one knows what to expect with them, right? Because none of us have ever played against them, and I'm pretty sure they're surprising a lot of people, including myself.
And how about the vibe that you're kind of feeling here at the World Cup?
The vibe is great. Like, there's so many people here. There's so many girls. I mean, all of these teams have so much support from all of their teams they play with locally or family and friends, and so the vibe is just great. I mean, all these people, the atmosphere is just like unlike anything else. We all know, unlike any other event, right? Being here, knowing that it's World Cup, seeing the Gaylord in the background whenever you're playing, like, it's just a whole different thing. So it's
World
amazing.
Cup's a different animal, right?
Yeah.
So there's that vibe, like you stated, and everybody's here bringing their best game.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, like at the end of Sunday, winning World Cup is a whole different thing in itself too. We all know that. Like, that's what everyone wants to do at the end of the day. So I mean, we'll see who ends up taking it. Very interesting.
Yeah, do you have any guess? You want to make a prediction about who's going to win the event?
I mean, obviously, I want to say us.
Sure.
So the top 3 teams, which is us, Heroines, and Cheetahs, we're all tied, and us being Destiny. And so obviously I would like for us to win, but I mean, if it's not us, I could totally see it being either the Heroines or Belladonna also, because they were playing very well.
Now, you said that there's a three-way tie, but I believe the Cheetahs are just,
They're just
one
1 point
point.
below.
So technically, it's definitely a tie.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a tie. And I mean, there's only 12 teams, so the race is really tight too. Like, it could literally be anyone. Someone could just pop out of nowhere and like do really well and potentially take the series.
So the games are being filmed, right?
Yeah.
Aren't they on YouTube now? So when people watch the show on Tuesday morning, they could actually go back and rewatch all of the WNXL if they want, right?
Yeah, it'll be on Major League Paintball. It'll be on there. All of our games are streamed on there along with Semi-Pro.
And that's on YouTube, right?
Yes, on YouTube.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
And where can people find out more information about the WNXL?
So on WNXL we have, on the NXL website, there's a WNXL tab, and it has a bunch of information on all the teams. And I think if you click on a team icon, you'll see, it'll take you to their Instagram or Facebook page. So that's super cool to get in touch with the teams. And then WNXL has Facebook and Instagram, and so they're constantly posting like score updates and things like that.
And so if women are wanting to get involved in paintball or think they want to try it out, is it just the WNXL? I heard you mention something about an amateur division.
Yeah, so there's also an amateur division that's new this year, and I'm sure it'll continue to grow for next year as well.
Yeah.
But there was about 6 teams overall, and then they're playing at this event as well. But the cool thing about amateur is it's not on the pro level yet, but you can join it, and like if you're just starting to play or just wanting to get in the sport and there's other females you want to play against, that's the route you can take. And then at Chicago, the Sericados won, and now they're playing in our division in World Cup in the pro division.
Very cool.
So if you're doing well enough, potentially earn you a pro spot, kind of like in semi-pro. Whenever you earn the pro spot and then go play pro, it's very similar to that.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Very cool. Is there any other news you want to share with us?
So far, the only other things that I know that I think are very impactful is it's Rosie McCurley's last event. She's retiring, and she's like a legend. Like, I've always looked up to her. Whenever I first started playing, Rosie was a big part of, like, she was always very helpful to me in meeting her and her husband. And so this is her last event, so she won't be playing in the WNXL, or I don't think at all. She's retiring. And then Reina Garcia also isn't playing with the Femmes Fatales for this event. She wasn't there in Chicago, and I think she's a big piece of them because she's a very strong player and she's been around for a long time. And then Brittany Vang isn't playing with Dallas Vibe anymore also.
So with Rosie leaving, would that mean Brad McCurley is leaving as well?
I would assume so. I mean, I don't know that for sure, but I would say, I mean, I don't see why he would stick around, but you never know. I mean, I feel like which I'm sure she actually is retiring, but everyone's like, oh, I'm quitting paintball, I'm gonna retire, and then they're back here next event.
That's right. I've retired 5 times.
Yeah.
3. Yeah. So I get it. So, but the Heroines won last year, right?
Yeah, they ended up winning World Cup. They had a first. We only had 3 events, the same as this year, and they had a first and third last year, and then first at Cup. So they ended up taking the series. But we were right. We had second every event, and so then now this year we have Destiny has first and a third, Heroines have a first and a third, and Cheetahs have 2 seconds. So it's super close.
And do you know yet for 2024 how many events there'll be for the WNXL?
I mean, if it's similar to this year, 3 at the very least, but we're hoping for all 5. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Hopefully we can get that in front of the right people and we can get you 5 events.
Yes. Awesome.
Did you hear that?
Yes.
5 events.
5.
It would help probably if you folks at home who are subscribed here go ahead and leave a comment about the WNXL and ask for more. Haley, do you have anything else for us?
No, I think that's all. We're just super excited to play the rest of our games and see how tomorrow goes and see who finally wins the Cup.
Absolutely.
Best of luck to you and
Thank
Destiny.
you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Haley.
We're now joined by MLPB, Major League Paintball's pro correspondent, Vince Cunningham. You also have your own show, Let's Talk Paintball. Check it out on YouTube and Instagram. Vince, how's it going?
It's going well. The tournament's hot, but it's fun. It's been amazing so far. How you all doing?
Doing pretty well. Let's not
He's
talk
lying.
about that. Back to the weather. No. let's talk about next season, right?
Okay.
We're here at World Cup, but there's already been some major announcements about the 2024 season. What do you got
Yes.
for us?
So, obviously, as everybody knows, we're going back to Vegas, right? That's the big news that's been released. So, going back to Vegas, the dates for that are March 8th through the 10th. That's solidified and done. And then at the Vegas event itself, we're also going to do the Action Pursuit Sports Summit. So, PB Extravaganza, which you all are very familiar with. The league, so Major League Paintball's come in and purchased that. They're now turning it into a full summit, full experience for the Major League Paintball, the industry, the vendors there at the event. So we're calling it the Paintball Week.
But what does that mean, summit?
So all of the vendors will be able to come around, and not just from paintball, right? We're talking to airsoft, we're talking to Nerf, any sport that a projectile is launched will be at that summit. So it's phenomenal exposure, not just for the paintball world, but also for all of those other organizations to come together. Right?
But will the regular public just be able to come in, or?
So that's still being worked out right now. Obviously, opening it up, Extravaganza in the past has been closed, so they're still trying to work that out. How many we can open it up to. Just because there may be some things there. If you're not familiar with Paintball Extravaganza, usually that's where some vendors, we get some behind the scenes look at what other vendors are coming out with that's top secret, right? So if some of that's still going to happen, we want to make sure it's close to the vendors itself, but all that's still being worked out.
I know when I was a store and field owner, I would go to Paintball Extravaganza, and that's where the majority of the manufacturers would launch new products, create potentially new pricing tiers. I would get information kind of about what my plan was going to be sort of wrapped around for the next year. Is it going to be similar to that?
It's to my knowledge, going to be that aspect is still going to be there for that.
Okay.
But we're just trying to maybe mix in a little bit of that public aspect if we can.
Okay.
So this will be the first one, right? And this is the first official launch of it. This 2024 season. So it's only going to get better from there.
That's exciting. Now, I also understand we're talking about, I've heard rumor about the Summit Awards.
Yes.
And does that involve Iconic in some way?
So Iconic and Major League Paintball have essentially teamed up to do the Iconic and the Major League Paintball Summit Awards, which Iconic is a partner of. If you have not seen it, there is a post on the Major League Paintball page, and I believe on the Iconic page as well, going over all the details of that. So, it's a very long list. We can't cover it all here, but the kind of highlights of it is, Go Sports and Iconic had the Go Sports Award. They've now taken that over, made it much larger, much more categories, different things that are going to happen there. So it just helps grow and legitimize paintball some more. We have an award show. We are doing these things that larger sports are doing.
Now it's time to ask that very tough question. Who is judging these awards? Do we have an idea, or do we know that or understand that yet?
So, to my knowledge, it is similar panel to what Go Sports has had. So it is some of the vendors in the industry, some of the legends in the industry, trying to stay as bipartisan as possible with that, so that way we can get a full look at paintball and not just the coaches show is my friend, so they get the award for the best creators of the year.
I don't want to dig too much into that because I have lots of opinions, especially because we don't have real stats. So
not yet. Something I'm working on.
Yeah, good. I'd love to talk to you about that when we're done.
Now that's something we're definitely going to have to talk about on another show too.
Absolutely.
If we're moving towards stats, that's got me very excited, especially as a coach.
I talked about this on Paintball Nerd in my interview. We are at the point now where if we want to have real conversations about who's the best at what, we got to have stats.
Yes.
You have to. Otherwise, it's always conjecture and opinion. And, I may like the way a player looks. They may have the right kind of style or swagger or whatever you want to call it. So I may be emotionally attached to that player and think, well, that person's the best.
Yeah.
But the reality is the numbers are going to tell us probably something different. Right?
Yes.
I talk about guys, especially here, and Mike and I'll dig into this later, guys like Danny Schonauer from LVL, who have just been outstanding, right?
Yep.
But it's unfortunate that we don't have real stats to kind of
I mean, they understand the value of the analytics, just like the league does as well. So we want to try to grow that aspect, because you're 100% correct, right? Any conversations you have with anybody, they want to know who's your best player. And I can't just say, well, this person's my best player, because they're going to ask, well, how do you know that? Well, because their history or their legacy or whatever,
Right.
they want to know, right? How many times this person survived on the break? How many shots does this person get? You know, what are those key factors that really decides who the best player is? So we're trying.
But we're moving in the right direction. I think, first of all, the graphics now are outstanding. That's going to help the average viewer, or perhaps the new viewer, understand what's going on and happening. And that's something that's been needing to happen for a long time.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
The statistics will legitimize the sport to a point. I think you're absolutely right. I think sometimes you see a player with a big move and you're like, oh, wow, that was a great move. Yeah, but the other 6-7 points he was...
Got shot
You
off
know,
the break.
flat.
We don't know that.
Right?
Yeah.
So I love the idea, and I hope we really get a good view on that. Let's talk about the event. Let's talk about World Cup.
Yes.
Let's talk about numbers here at World Cup.
Okay. Anyone that's been around paintball for a long time, we've seen when the economy started to take a little bit of a dip, right? We've seen paintball take a slump. Paintball now, even though the economy is in sort of a weird place, we're growing, which is the exact opposite of happened. That just shows the health of our community. That shows the overall health and growth of paintball itself as an industry, which is phenomenal to see. So World Cup officially the largest paintball event ever in the history of the sport so far.
God bless America. We will entertain ourselves.
Yes,
Right?
That's right.
Money's tight. We figure out how to still go to the
Exactly.
movies. We still figure out how to
Bread
play
and
paintball.
circuses. Bread and
Yeah.
circuses.
Absolutely. So, to kind of finish up on the iconic awards, though.
Yep.
Where will that be taking place? Do we have a time?
Yep, so
Okay.
the calendar as it states right now, the tournament will be at Craig Ranch in Vegas. It'll be a 7th, 8th, 9th, and then 10th, right? And then after the award show at the Sahara, at the, I'm trying to get the name right, the Azillo, I keep saying it wrong, but the Azillo pool, which is at the Sahara, will be the award show. You know, we're calling it the party experience. If everyone has been to so far at World Cup, we had the amazing Hormesis party, right? This is going to be a giant version of that, right?
Okay.
So that's going to be the iconic awards will happen there. Everyone will party and have a good time. And then going into the summit will be the 11th, 12th, and 13th. So we're, like I said, that's why we're calling it the Paintball Week. It is a week full of paintball action and news.
So the awards would be Sunday evening after the event.
Sunday evening after the
And then the
event.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday following the event will be
The summit.
The summit.
Exactly.
That's perfect. Yeah. So
Outstanding.
vendors will already be there. It
Yep.
doesn't cost them any more money to come.
Exactly.
We can get field and store owners. We get the information out to them. They can come catch part of the event, especially on Sunday. Go
Yep.
sit in the grandstand, have a beer.
Yep.
Right?
And that was some of the issues before, as you guys know, being a field owner and so on and so forth, was just the logistics, right? So I have to pay to get my stuff to the first event, but then before that, I have to pay to get all my stuff to the paintball extravaganza. So now we're saving money by having it all in one, because everything's already going to be there. Logistically, you're not having to spend that money. But
great.
I do also have some big news.
Okay.
Is it breaking here on
It's
the Coaches Show?
Breaking news. No one knows this yet, but we are actually releasing the 2024 schedule for the first time at the World Cup. So 2024 schedule is done.
So by the time you guys see this, you'll be able to go to the Major League Paintball and NXL.com page and see the schedule, right?
And see the schedule. So there's one slight caveat, which I'll get into, which I can go through right now. So first event we talked about, right, in March. Second event is going to be the Lone Star Major in Dallas, Texas, which is going to be the April 26th or 28th. The third event, and this is the caveat, contract still being signed for the Mid-Atlantic Major.
Okay.
So that's great to hear. And that's going to be June 21st to 23rd. The fourth event is the Windy City Major back in beautiful Chicago, like we always have. That's the September 13th through the 15th. And then World Cup, right? World Cup here in beautiful Kissimmee, Florida. It's going to be November 6th through the 10th. So again, first time ever, right? We have released the next year's schedule at World Cup.
So mark your calendars and get the logistics squared away now.
Yeah, that's perfect. And not just for us, right, for planning purposes, but that we also, there's a vast number of
Yes.
regional tournament series that kind of hang around and wait
Absolutely.
for Major League Paintball to put out their schedule for what that NXL Major League Paintball is going to, what weekends, and whether or not it's going to be 1 or 2 practice weekends, we still don't know yet.
That's exactly
Right?
it.
So But they can start putting their dates out,
Yes.
right, without having to worry about how much wallet share they're potentially going to steal away.
And that was some of the things that we looked at when trying to build that out and get it out sooner and try to get this ball rolling, because in order to keep paintball healthy, we need field owners and other tournament series to grow and do well and not wait on us,
Sure.
right? So like you said, it's a big deal because, you know, we might have a team that plays the MSXL or plays the USXBL or these other tournament series that they're waiting to schedule around us, so that way those teams don't have to pick one or the other. They can play both, right? And it only helps grow the sport and, you know, grow those fields and help those organizations as well.
And I think that's significant, and it's incredible to hear. But I did want to, you touched on something that I kind of want to touch on one more time. There is rumor, it hasn't been decided yet. This year we had 1 layout practice weekend. We may be going back to 2 layout practice weekends.
I cannot confirm or deny.
All right.
I tried to nail Jason Trozen down, our NXL commissioner, down on that before the show started, and unfortunately, he would not share with me.
Jason, the people want to know. All
So
right.
I want to give you guys some parting things to talk about here since we're at World Cup. I know both of you know semi-pro very well. So, you know, semi-pro, we did the champions bracket for semi-pro just like they did for pro. And, you know, newbies, Nasty, who used to be Arsenal,
Right.
Nasty, PB Fit and Blast Camp, right? So they made it in. They automatically get into Ochos for seating. And
Ochos or quarters?
they get into quarters because of seating automatically. So the one big piece that just happened, so Scalp, who is the French team, also attached to the Indians, just knocked out the tournament favorite, Newbies, who was absolutely running through everybody. They mercy rolled Newbies. Now Newbies beat PB Fit earlier in the tournament already. So Newbies were looking like the favorite right now, and Scalp mercy ruled them.
So I got to watch Scalp while I coached in Europe this year.
Yes.
They're impressive. Now, when I watched them, they had Malloy playing with them.
Yes,
and
that's
anybody
true.
who knows professional paintball knows you add a guy like that,
Yeah.
things look different. I got to watch them play yesterday, and without him, they are just as impressive.
Yes.
Wow.
Just as impressive. So you've watched a lot of the pro games. I've noticed
Yep.
you're posting a lot of things as you're doing your job with Major League Paintball as the marketing director.
Yep.
Marketing director?
Brand coordinator, marketing director, it's all kind of merging together. We're just trying to grow it any way we
It's
can.
a soup.
It's a soup.
I think the reality is we call you a lot of different marketing
Yes.
things.
I'm everything right now, except for the graphics and photographer. I have amazing editor, graphics staff for that, but everything you see posted right now all over the tournament space is from me. Yes.
So, other than the top 4, right, which we already know, Tauntauns, Tampa Bay Damage,
Yep.
Dynasty, and Houston Heat, who do you see that is playing well that maybe could throw a wrench in things?
Right now, I think the 2 that are probably the ones. I would say, I was going to say X Factor at first, but X Factor's had a little bit of a hard road to hoe so far. I think the teams that have looked really good and consistent, they're losing only by little. Infamous, right, looks very good, and Impact is on a roll right now, right? So I think if any 2 teams could play the spoiler for any of the top 4, it would be either Infamous, who has underperformed this year based on their standards and the roster they have, right?
Yep.
And then also Impact, who has something to prove. It's been a long time for that organization, what they built there, to get back to the top.
Yeah, agreed.
100%.
Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see.
Absolutely.
When this show airs, we'll know.
Yeah, we'll know. We'll know if Scalp ends up winning. We'll know who gets that pro spot. I mean, obviously, Latin Saints news, kind of officially broke that they're relegated no matter what. So now we're just kind of see out of the semi-pro bracket who's going to actually get that, because Newbies could have potentially played the spoiler in that, but they're out. So now it really does kind of come down between Blast Camp and PB Fit. Who's going to be the team? Now, side note of that, which you all know a lot more about than I do, which I think would be interesting to talk about, is if PB Fit or Blast Camp, one of those teams don't get the pro spot, are they going to potentially buy a pro spot?
More rumors. More rumors
Gotta
coming.
love it. That's what I'm hearing right now.
I heard coming in, there were possibly 3 teams who were considering selling.
I heard the same.
And I've talked to most of those owners.
Yeah.
And I keep hearing no.
No?
No.
Wow.
So now,
good to hear.
money changes a no.
That's
Money
right.
changes
everyone,
everything.
Everyone has a number.
Yeah.
Money changes a no pretty fast.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
you know, people may go down to Old Town, you know, tomorrow night after the event's over, have
Yeah.
a few beers, talk about some things, get a little lubricated.
That's
and
never
then-
happened before.
And then deals might get made on a napkin. We'll see. But, I keep hearing no, right? That that there isn't a pro team who may sell their spot, which would make things interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because that would put one of those two teams has now been battling for four seasons.
Yeah, so
Trying to get that spot, and then the other skipping semi-pro, going to play as AC Dallas and Paintball Fit, and then coming back down,
Yep.
right? Loses last year to Austin Notorious by 1 point. Obviously, incredibly hungry as they've won 4 events in a row.
Yes.
Historically, probably will never be done again.
Yep.
And then also, if Scalp ends up winning the tournament, that doesn't impact anything because
Yeah.
they are not in contention.
exactly. Now it just matters where PB Fit and Blast Camp fall. That's it.
Although it would be really cool for European paintball to have a team like that come in
Yes.
Yes.
and play incredibly well,
NXL Europe would wear that as their crown for until the next event.
as they should.
And it's interesting you're talking about the nose, but I have a theory that the off season, if we thought the last off season was crazy, I think this off season is going to be just as crazy.
Absolutely. We can get into that.
We'll see. We'll see. I'm glad to join you all at any time you want to help talk about that because it's going to get spicy.
I think so too. Vince, thank you very much. We
Thank you.
appreciate the update.
Thank you for having me.
So go check out Let's Talk Paintball with Vince Cunningham. We'll see you.
Thank you.
Time to love again. Time to love again. Time to love
Ryan, let's talk about this layout. This layout is showing 2 ways to play it, right? Risk reward or safe pocket. And you're seeing a lot of teams utilize that pocket. Even teams that are known for big punches are playing pocket. What's interesting, a lot of those teams that are known for throwing those punches are playing the pocket very well, very disciplined. And some teams that are known for discipline aren't playing it well.
You and I both played one of those teams in Infamous, right?
Correct.
Scouting them after their first game and then getting to play them. Yeah, I mean, they got up 1 point on us and held us, right? And as Joey Blue would say, did the smart thing.
That's right.
And they did. We just could not get through. They have their communication during that match was fantastic. I mean, they were
Absolutely.
right on point. As they happened to be right in front of me. You know, here at World Cup with the pits in the back, we kind of walk around and stand on the side. They were right in front of me, and I could hear everything. And a gun would shift off, and I would think, yeah, here's the time, and then somebody would fill that zone immediately.
Right.
So Infamous, to me, has been incredibly impressive in the way that they played the field. I would expect, you know, when people see this show on Tuesday, that they have done very well in the event.
I agree. I think Infamous showed, especially since we both played them, Infamous, their communication was top notch. When a job shifted, the other job knew exactly what they had to do, right? So the jobs shift on this field. Controlling those zones, zone control on this layout is paramount.
Yeah.
And they've put on I would say a clinic.
Without a doubt. Yeah, Travis Lemansky, you know, came in knowing exactly what he wanted to do from the first point, it felt like. Has not deviated, has gone to the same places. He's shifted around where the guns are off the break, but for the most part, has really stuck to his game plan and finding a lot of success in it.
Absolutely, and that comes down to a scouting perspective as well. What's fascinating for me is even with the scouting perspective, and you know this team wants to do this, wants to do that,
Yeah.
you can still run the pocket and control what they want to do. Another team that, from what I saw, I only got to catch one of their matches, but NYX is doing the same.
Very good.
You know, another punching team doing an incredible job of controlling that pocket.
It does seem like NYX is willing to take a couple of more risks. You know, they're getting out to the Dorito 1 a little faster. But for the most part, I agree 100%. Like, it doesn't look like, you know, their snake guys are getting in too early. They're playing very patient paintball. Corey Hall has also been incredible all weekend. You know, it'll be interesting to see kind of with NYX being in the places they've been at the last 4 events, they're really kind of due, right? And this is a great layout for them. Now, it's also great for Tampa Bay Damage, right, who's coming off 2 big event wins. We haven't seen a lot yet, just simply because we know those top 4 teams are getting to play kind of that, I don't want to say it means nothing, but we know it means less. A coach is probably going to do a lot less, show a lot less, playing in that, guaranteed quarter event, right? That's kind of going on
for
with
seeding.
Right, yeah, just for seeding.
Yeah, and deception is all warfare.
Sure,
Right? So
yeah.
when you're talking about that, I'm not going to show a lot. Granted, the seeding is important, but I think with the way those teams are playing, I don't think it matters who they're facing, because that pocket can be so powerful if played well and disciplined.
Sure, and shocking enough, teams like X Factor, who I think are incredibly disciplined, are struggling a bit, right? They dropped to a team we'll talk about later in the Lucky 15s. They just, it seems like there's, and I'm sure Ryan Brand will come up with something fantastic. I think literally as we're doing this show right now, they are playing AC Diesel, who's also struggled quite a bit on this field. It seems like they're really trying to force things outside, and the teams that are experiencing the most success are really taking big advantage of the middle of the field.
And you mentioned AC Diesel. I saw a couple of their matches. Kyle Spica, explosive. He's been playing lights out. And what's interesting to me, one thing I like about players like that, when a player goes through and creates that chaos, boom, the other players then build off that chaos, take ground because it shifted a gun, and now we're in position. And I think that's how it's been playing out.
I totally agree. They pull an outside gun in, right, that's probably holding heads up, someone who is on the outside who can then make that ballistic move. Mark Johnson stepped out as player.
He's
and
coaching
is
this
coaching
event.
the team. As a player, not every great player, and Mark is great. He's a great player. Not every great player is a great coach, and he may be having a little bit of challenges with some read-react things from a coaching perspective, what he's seeing off the box. It just looks like AC Diesel isn't necessarily playing the field correctly.
I'm getting the same perspective. There's a couple of teams that I've noticed that they, in my opinion, aren't playing the field correctly, but somehow are finding success.
Sure.
And that's shocking to me. These wide runners making these big bites, and they're making it against the pocket.
Yeah.
So, once again, it comes down to, are we hitting our shots? I know another team that wasn't hitting their shots consistently, but it's an incredible.
So the Russians, right? Maybe the team, I don't know if that's the team you're kind of thinking about, seems to be risking kind of that one body on the snake side pretty regularly, and sort of running and shooting a lot of times to the corner, which is crazy. However, Malloy, seems to have that Malloy force field. I put 3 guns on him when in our first point. He still made it. The kid's he's just unbelievable. So Malloy doing Malloy things, right? So I expected kind of the Russians to be a little more ballistic on the outside, but I kind of thought it would be down the Dorito side, which they've tried a few times, but doesn't seem like they've been as successful there. It's just, hey, let Malloy go to the corner, running and shooting, and then he slides into the snake and doing Malloy stuff. I think their win against Infamous, he won a 1-on-2 or 1-on-3.
That was an incredible point. He did have that force field. I think we saw later that he did take a bounce, but still, the fact that he was able to line those guys up and win that point, it was incredible to watch.
Yeah.
We watched it 4 times. We couldn't believe it.
So here we are kind of Saturday afternoon, right? We know a lot about kind of who's going to be playing tomorrow. Do you have anybody who's not in the top 4 that you believe has an opportunity to kind of come in and sort of throw a wrench into the Dynasty Tampa Bay Damage narrative?
I'm going to have to say it's Impact.
Yeah.
Impact has been going out there executing. We've shared the pit with them all weekend. They just seem to be hitting on all cylinders now. It's like they found that rhythm, they found that pace, and they're comfortable. They're coming off the field, they're talking to each other, they're giving the data, they're making the game plans, they're making the calls, they're reacting well. And that's painful.
For me, it's Infamous, right? And again, just going back to kind of the first thing I was talking about with Travis Lemansky, I think he had an idea of what he wanted his game plan to be. He has not veered from what he wants to do. He's kind of put his soldiers out there and put them on basically the exact same spots every point and said, here's what we're going to do. Come beat us. Yeah, come beat us. And it seems like he's just been really consistent with his game plan. It'll be interesting to see when the show comes out on Tuesday, if he does divert, right, or he sticks to what has worked for him thus far. To be honest, I think it will. I believe that our pool, we were in the same pool with Infamous, with Russian Legion, and with Verse, right, who we'll talk about in a moment. But I think that became the grinder, right? A lot
100%.
of 2-2. Nobody went undefeated in that pool. A lot of back and forth. I'm glad my rookie squad was able to play decent, got 1 win, and We'll talk about that later too. But nonetheless, like we were in every match, so it ended up being kind of the grinder division. So what do you think about how the European teams are playing?
I am highly impressed with how the European teams are playing. Joy Division, even though they're not doing as well as the other European teams,
Yeah.
they've been in the matches. They've shown a tenacity that's impressive. Verst has impressed me significantly. Their what I would call no holds barred attack is incredible.
Again, kind of doing things you shouldn't be able to
That
do.
you shouldn't be
right?
able to do, and they're doing it with those force fields. I'm like, great reads, great read and react from Verst. Obviously, the Lucky 15s, another team that plays off that chaos, right? They recognize the body count. They go, they're dynamic, ballistic, as you say, at certain elements, and then boom, they close out the point. So incredibly well done by the Luckies. I haven't been able to watch a lot of Tauntauns.
Yeah, so I was able to watch them yesterday, and they look like the Tauntauns. I think they had a little bit of a rough start, but again, I don't know if Pascal may be doing the same thing that the other coaches are kind of doing and saving some things in the bag. I kind of do expect that. He's a fantastic coach. I, again, watched him a lot in Europe, had a lot of great conversations that we could with the language barrier, but he's incredibly intelligent. I'll tell you, other than kind of the sort of start the Joy Division got, all of the European teams, and Joy did get it together, right? Good
Right.
on them. They went home.
Did their homework.
I think it was a disadvantage for them that they played 2 games on the first day of play. I think if they would have had an opportunity to get a little better grasp on what happens here in America and kind of how the teams play, they probably would have done better, right? Because they went home, made some great adjustments.
Absolutely.
Right? Made some great adjustments, made way less mistakes trying to force guys to the outside of the field. I do think Verst came in, and again, only because of the division they were in, I felt like Verst came in more prepared to play the event. Now, they're out, right?
Right.
They're out, but they played the field correctly, kind of right off the bat. Did play the middle of the field pretty well. Waited to get the guy out on the snake side for the perfect moment. Pasternak was just unbelievably good.
Pasternak was a monster.
Unbelievably good, right? It doesn't miss a shot,
Nope.
right? So it was, for me as a fan, right, it was incredibly exciting to see the European teams come in last year and really were a non-factor.
Right.
But then to watch them come in this year and look like they belong, it's incredibly exciting, right? And so for the European paintball scene to have a semi-pro team coming over here and kind of tearing through the division a little bit, knocks out newbies who on paper were the favorite for beating Paintball Fit in the
In
preliminary
semi-pro, right?
right? In their kind of, I call it the preliminary rounds, right?
Right.
Which is just their seeding round. Really exciting, right? Really exciting.
100%. I haven't caught any of the semi-pro teams, but I look forward to watching those matches tonight.
Sure.
So it's an incredible. It's good for paintball. It's incredibly good for paintball. I'm really excited. And to your point, I love that dynamic play on a layout, that risk reward.
Yeah.
It's fantastic, and it worked out for Verst. It didn't work out for some teams.
Two of them sitting here.
Yeah, 2 of them sitting here. Even when you've got to have that discipline paintball on this layout, and being able to make those reads. That's the key.
Totally agree on the discipline thing. This field layout, though it was interesting at practice, I kind of felt like there would be a little more freedom. Even on Wednesday when we saw the 7-3 exhibition, it looked like some guys were going to be able to be a little more free. And then, Infamous comes in playing the way that they are in a full pocket, right? And I think a few other teams, Impact kind of did that as well. And you see them do it really well. I think a lot of, I know I took notice very, very quickly thinking, man, if everybody begins to play this way, nobody's getting out of the box.
That's right.
Nobody's getting out of the box. However, it makes for some really fun car crashes in the middle of the field.
100%.
You've seen some really dynamic stuff, right?
100%.
We've had a 4-on-1 that is won. We had Malloy with a 2 or 3-on-1. I need
It
to
was
go
a
back
3, I believe, to begin with.
Really impressive, right? I think it's cool too. You watch a guy like Malloy who didn't go through the middle, comes running down the snake side, which you shouldn't be able to do. Total, from a coaching perspective,
Right.
total mistake, right? Like I'd be screaming at someone.
Right.
It totally gets away with it, right?
Yeah.
So really interesting also to have a team like the Russians who began the season so poorly, from the Russian perspective, right? The
absolutely.
team we're used to seeing, to watch them kind of struggle the way that they did in the beginning of the year, show up at the last event looking like who they are.
That's correct.
And then I think showing up here also looking more like who they are.
I agree.
So when this comes out on Tuesday, I'm kind of going with Infamous still, but the Russians could be that dark horse that may throw a wrench in things.
And it's a gunfight, right? If both teams are playing that pocket, it comes down to first mistake and that gunfight. So it's going to be interesting to see because you've got great gunfighters in both squads.
So have you seen anything that a coach has made a change or changed a game plan that really stuck out to you?
I have some personal experience on that. There were some changes that happened that didn't work. But, from a coach's perspective, the biggest change for me is watching those punchers, the infamous, the NYXs, those punches, they're playing that pocket, playing that controlled, disciplined paintball where it's normally like, hey, here's the haymaker, here's the haymaker. So I would have to say that NYX, Infamous are the ones that just really caught my attention.
I was going to say Travis Lemansky, Dan Lee and Rich Telford have really put together a solid plan.
Yep.
Different, adverse to kind of the personality of their groups, right? But playing so well in it.
That's right.
So you would think when you see, especially like a team like Infamous, that really, I think NYX plays a little bit more of a kind of controlled, put a guy in and bump, put a guy in and bump, put a guy in and bump, whereas Infamous is ballistic.
Let's let them kill themselves.
Right.
At this event, before it's like ballistic, let's go get them, let's punch them in the teeth. Now let's let them punch themselves in the teeth.
For a team like Infamous, I think it's maturity.
It is maturity. It showed that growth throughout the season, and it's absolutely incredible to watch, and I love it.
Sure, me too. So, what do you think is going to happen in the offseason? I kind of paused because I don't know if we want to jump into this, but I think we should here. I think it's a good time to talk about it. We kind of mentioned a few teams in there, and there's some that we haven't talked about, which you and I'll beat up on each other in a second. But what do you think is going to happen in the offseason? What kind of player moves? Which teams do you think are going to be most impacted? I did say that with a pun.
Yeah, you did. I caught it.
Yeah.
I do think you're going to see some changing of the guard. We're going to see some money thrown around,
Sure.
and we're going to see a shift of some strong players from these teams that have underperformed for the season. As a coach of a team that doesn't have a budget and has been very organic, I think it's going to be interesting for me to watch because I'm going to pay attention to that. A good coach is going to recognize, okay, this now has added this strength or level. This loss has now created this hole. These types of things. I think the field of players that are going to enter what we would call the
Free agency.
The free agency is going to be even more crazy than last year. I thought we couldn't get any crazier than last year. But I think this offseason is going to be. I think we're going to see some surprises.
I agree. Yeah, just from the rumor mill, I don't know anything out of for sure, but from the rumor mill, it looks like Impact could be potentially be making a lot of change. The other thing too that I have to note is all of this could change if Impact comes out, wins the World Cup. Players are gonna think twice about whether or not it's the right thing to do, right?
That's right.
So, but I do believe Impact, you're gonna see some big moves there. AC Diesel's another question mark. Mark Johnson going out and spending the money and bringing on some incredibly talented guys who have, as a group, kind of underperformed. I do think that kind of the revolving sort of door of coaching that happened this year did impact the personality of the group, right? I think
That's an excellent point.
They kind of had a hard time finding out what their personality was going to be, and by the time maybe and I don't know that they really did figure it out, but it'll be interesting to sort of see what happens there this year. Any other teams you've heard potentially making some big change-ups?
Nothing past that. I mean, most of it's speculation.
Right.
So I don't want to speculate. But something I do want to tap into that you mentioned, you talked about finding that identity, right? I think culture, you've heard me talk about
Sure.
this ad nauseum. Culture is a big part of it. Well, where does that culture begin? That culture begins at the top.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I believe the accountability starts at the top. The coach sets the pace. He determines what kind of culture we're going to have. And then he's the merciless God that rules that universe, that on that culture. And the players have to buy in. The players have to buy in and understand and respect where that direction is. If they don't agree with it, well then we'll see what happens. That's where you start having that friction and you start seeing these things happen where we're not getting the performance we should be having. So making sure that team, the players, the coach, everybody's on the same page, that's imperative to
Sure.
see a successful program. Look at the teams that have done it. Dynasty, everyone's talking about Dynasty because Dynasty has that culture. That culture has not veered for years.
Well, look at the top 3 teams. You know, the
Bingo.
3 teams that are, you know, from the U.S. that got the bye, if you really look at the core of each group, it's been the same guys.
It is.
They're not moving the major pieces around. Just like in chess, I don't want to lose my king and queen. You know, they're an outside guy, right? A snake one guy, a Dorito one guy. That you see those pieces on the top teams kind of move around a little bit. What you rarely see is the 2s and 3s move around. Now, of course, Damage sort of making me a liar and bringing in, you know, one of the most creative and impressive 2s, potentially 3 in the game, right?
Rainey Stanzik
Yeah.
is probably, I mean, he's a kingmaker. Let's call it what it is. The man's
Sure.
got rings,
Yeah.
and he's got rings for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think Rainey just fit in well with Joey Blute's dynamic. That, you know, Joey's, I bet they feed off each other very well. I bet
Sure.
you it's a sounding board bouncing off. And Damage has, you know, Damage of the old. We're seeing the Damage of the old.
For sure, right?
And-
And it's been years since Damage has really, and I don't want to say relevant because that's not probably the right word, but since we've considered them a constant contender, right?
Absolutely.
And Joey has done a fantastic job. You were talking about top-down personality and buy-in. It's such, like, they all trust him, right? You know, he did it 10 years ago. Here he is doing it again. Bringing in a big piece, right? Like Rainey, and sort of disrupting really what that 2-3 form looks like. And it has been flawless. Flawless. It took him a minute to get it kind of going in the beginning of the year. You know, we did the coaches show, the pre-tournament coaches show. I was calling Damage from the beginning, and I still feel that way. I believe they're the most well-rounded group in paintball. And it's interesting without a coach, right? Because if you talk to Joey, he'll tell you, I'm not really a coach. I'm really
not
more of a
X's and O's
manager,
guy.
right?
Right,
I'm really
right.
more of a manager. And if you hear him in the pit, it's true. But when you have a group that is so, they understand each other so well, and I believe they're so smart that they have their game plan kind of figured out about how they want to play the event, probably by midday through the second day of practice.
I agree. I think they speak the Damage language, right?
For
They're
sure.
all speaking the same language. And if you and I or anyone else out there were to be in the pit with Damage and you would hear them talk, you'd see it's more like a business.
Right.
This is what we have to do to succeed. So
Yeah.
why aren't we doing this?
At very high level, right?
It is.
Very
It's
high
incredible.
level.
It's incredible.
So I don't know that we'll see a lot of 2s and 3s moving around, right? But I do think as we continue to sort of, again, it's conjecture, right? It's conjecture. We're
Right.
talking about what potentially could occur as disruption. I know there'll be some coaching changes that'll occur. I have no doubt there's going to be a decent amount of player changes. How those come out for us, right, with the show, it's going to be fantastic. We're going to have an opportunity to bring those coaches on who are picking up, dropping players. We're going to dissect, you know, how that could potentially change that group. You know, we'll bring the coach on. We'll talk about what did you see that made you feel like you needed to make this move. We'll bring some game film in to help support that, right? Ask that coach to leave, and then you and I will talk a little more about that. So before we kind of talk into what we're going to be talking about through the off season here, let's talk about us for a moment, right? You and I both have the same pool, coming out with the same record, right? Which is semi-heartbreaking. A little less maybe for my young group. I know you had high expectations, and as a fan, so did I. So kind of talk me through what were the challenges that were happening with the Hurricanes?
I think there was a lack of understanding of what needed to happen from a discipline perspective. The biggest issue for me with my guys, and I think that's a word that's used often to describe the Hurricanes, is discipline.
Sure.
And I don't think necessarily the game plan and our approach to our teams, because our scouting, I swear by our scouting, I swear by our execution and our discipline. But we had game changers, normal game changers, solid rocks that our communication was just not there. We weren't transitioning jobs.
Yeah.
We had the game plan. We even had predetermined game plans based off the scouting. We were so confident in the scouting. And what was happening was the job was getting dropped. There was a misunderstanding of that aspect.
Sure.
And I think if that leads to catastrophic breakdown. And you can only say so much when you come into the pit. Why did we drop this zone? Well, I thought so-and-so had the zone. Did you confirm he had the zone before you dropped the zone? No, sir.
Ask a question, right?
Yeah, it's the most important and simplest question in paintball, right? Why? And once we have that conversation and understand, okay, well, let's correct it. And what I was struggling with is normally my guys, when we have that conversation, they correct it.
Yeah.
And we kept making the same mistakes.
Yeah.
You would see moments of brilliance. You would see Hurricane paintball, the first point, second point, maybe 2 points in, and then you see
Sporadically.
it was
Sure.
sporadic. It was not consistent.
Right.
And since I did my first interview with Matty Marshall 2 years ago, I said we have to be more consistent. And so that's been something the Hurricanes have worked on all season. Discipline, consistency, understanding the game plan, understanding what your job is, and playing as a team. We had a lot of guys out there playing individual paintball, and that's just not Hurricane paintball.
And certainly not on this layout.
No, sir.
Yeah. So just from an outsider looking in, I totally agree with the assessment. It looked like guys were a little off, right? And I don't know what that is. I'm not in the pit, but I do know the team pretty well.
Yes, sir.
With all the practicing we do together, I will tell you, did not look like your normal group.
No, sir.
Right? And not just kind of the undisciplined things, but and I don't know about the communication because I wasn't standing down there, but it did look like some things were off. And so, what kind of changes are you thinking about? And maybe it's not changes. Maybe it's just emphasizing something else. So this off season, what do you do that's going to help correct that? Because really, you talked about consistency up until now. You guys have been incredibly consistent. Yeah, right. So like when I start to think about a team that's consistent, there's a few names on that list, and the Hurricanes are one of them.
Yes, sir.
Right. So up to now, your kind of focus of being more consistent, if that's what you said 2 years ago, you did it, right?
Right.
Just had kind of one event, sort of weird. So do you feel like this is maybe a one-off, or are there things you're going to do through the off season to correct some of that?
That's an excellent question. I do believe it's a one-off.
Okay.
And here's why I say that. When we lost that last match, I brought the guys together. And I don't remember exactly what I said. I was very impassioned at the time. But this is a hard lesson. It's a hard lesson. And what you have to do is you have two choices when you're given a hard lesson. You either roll over and die, or you step up and you learn from it and you grow. That's what adversity does.
Right.
Adversity and these hard lessons are opportunities for us to grow and become better.
Yeah.
And I think every single one of my guys looked around that circle. I said, look around the circle. Understand the reason why we've seen success is because every one of you trusts each other.
Right.
You would go to war with each other. You would take a bullet for each other, right? So let's talk about it. We had a long conversation afterwards about where we thought those variables and elements were. Coach Bianca is moving back towards the breaking the clipboard type thing, getting a little bit harsher. The guys responded. They get it. They understand. They looked at me and they said, we will do better. And when my guys tell me they're going to do something, I believe them.
Yeah, as you should, right? Because again, they have been incredibly consistent up to now. Just tripped.
Right.
This is not a fall. It's just a
No,
trip.
this is not a fault.
You stumble.
Falling forward, right? We
Right.
talk about that often. Falling forward. Use this as an opportunity to become better.
So it's so glad you said it the way you said it, because we're so different in that. I like my group grew here. Also went 1-3. Did not execute a few things well. Had a couple players get some penalties at stupid times.
Oh yeah, don't talk to me about penalties.
Yeah, but my speech is different, right? Losing is losing.
Yeah.
Losing is losing. I understand we're going to grow. We're going to learn, all the whatever rhetoric I can throw at them.
Sure.
You're more philosophical than I am from that perspective. For me, it's, hey, you lost. I mean, I hope you learn, right? But you lost. You had opportunities to win the game, and you didn't. You just didn't. I felt like from a strategy perspective, other than the first match, I put my team in the best position to win, and they didn't win, right? They lost. So I'm a little harsher again than you, and I'm going to continue to be. I don't know another way. It's been worked for me thus far. But, with my team is a little bit different. I am more than likely stepping away for next season. We'll see what happens. I may
Right.
end up somewhere else, but as far as my time with Austin Notorious, that has come to an end, more than likely.
That's disappointed to hear.
Yeah, we'll see, right?
yeah.
We'll see. But there would need to be a few things that would need to be altered. But I had an amazing experience there. Had an amazing experience. We did something in 3 years that really in 2 years that no other team has done since we had the 10-man days, and Strange did it, right? They won Amateur B, won Amateur A, and then went pro. So disappointed in our finish, but not disappointed in the experience.
No, sir.
Right, if that makes sense.
No, sir. And I don't think our philosophies are so far away. It's just
The delivery's different.
The delivery's different because ultimately what we're talking about is, hey, you had an opportunity to win, you didn't, you lost. Go back and figure out why. Understand why. Go watch tape, understand where you made the mistake, right? Because that's on you.
Right, watch tape.
Once you're on the field, the game plan's in your hands and the execution of that is up to you.
One of the things I challenge every year with my groups, I want them in the off season, go watch every point you played and
Yes,
document
yes.
the mistakes that you made and create a list. And then together we're going to go through that list and we're going to point out what are the most important things that you need to focus on this off season, And then as you begin to correct those things, we'll go down the list. We're not going to forget these things,
Nope.
but we're going to go down the list and how we're going to correct them.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you're a coach and you get into this off season and you're not having your players do that, you got to do it. You
You're
got to
making
do
a
it. And they
mistake.
should be you should be videoing every practice. Every time you have documentation, you need to get it.
Absolutely.
So
Well, let's talk to the people about what they can expect from the coaches show. The rest of
we're done beating each other up. Is that what you're saying?
because honestly, you and I came in here and we were both struggling a little bit, going, we got to do this show, but let's do what we can do because you and I are both passionate about
Yes.
coaching. We're both passionate about our teams. We're both passionate about winning. We're both passionate about being our best. So
Sorry, we got a little helicopter and some things happening there. That's
good.
the
Hey,
fun
look.
part about the show, right?
That's right. Here
Like
we are
doing
at World Cup.
Yeah, doing this here at World Cup, you're hearing the music, you're hearing things going on. It really is just creates the vibe of what we're dealing with. You know, we've talked a lot about the personality of the teams, but
Right.
the personality of Major League Paintball in these events, it's a thing too. Each one of them kind of has its own personality. And World Cup is wild, right? We got people visiting back here laughing and smiling.
well, you can't help it when it's Rocky Cagnoni. He's going to draw a crowd.
Sure.
It's a party wherever he's at.
Yeah,
So.
you know, God bless him, and prayers up for his
100% for his
surgery.
recovery.
Yeah. Hope things go well here. So the main focus I think we need to talk about how the personality of our show
Right.
is going to look and work. You know, one, we want to help create some narrative for Major League Paintball.
100%.
We want to have Tom Cole on. We want him to explain the why. Why is he making certain decisions, and what are we pushing toward? Right? What is
Hear it
that
from
end goal?
That's right. Hear it from the horse's mouth so you understand. There's no conjecture. You understand why are they doing this. Well, Tom Cole is going to come and explain a lot of that to you.
Yeah, we want to give you a reason to care, right? We feel like a lot of times Major League Paintball, I don't want to say has failed, but there's been gaps in kind of the communication out to the industry and what that's going to look like for you guys, and we want to help you fix that. So, and I shouldn't say fix, we just want to help create the narrative and make it more simple for you to buy into what's happening at Major League Paintball and you to understand the why. And then expect you to push it along, right? So when Tom comes on and he explains the direction we're going and the why, we want you to get behind it. And if you have opinion, please do share. But make sure that there's some logic behind it, right? We got a lot of keyboard warriors, and I think that's just kind of the nature of the beast that we're in, and that's okay. We want you to have an opinion, but
But if you
let's make-
truly want to grow the sport, you have to understand where the perspective is coming, and then we've got to move that forward.
But to be clear, Mike and I are not here to be yes men, and if we have opinion, we're going to share it. So we're also going to have Jason Trozen on. In fact, I'm hoping next week, I got to keep twisting his arm, but I'm hoping next week we'll not only be able to have the pro coach of the winning team, but also Jason Trozen come on. We're going to talk about the new field bunker kit and the why.
The why
Around
of the new field bunker kit.
Yeah.
That's a great topic.
I kind of thought it was goofy when I first saw it. I kind of mentioned earlier I had Jason in here kind of trapped in the studio, and so I asked a lot of questions, and he was able to explain to me the why. As soon as I understood the why, I agreed with it. It's great. So
You're going to share that with me when we get there.
absolutely. But again, I think when we communicate things well, Major League Paintball communicates things well to you guys, I think it'll be easier for you to understand and buy into the why, and let's push this thing forward instead of being drug along. So the next show, we're hoping for Jason Trozen,
And the winning coach of this event.
the winning coach of the event, and then the next show right after that, I'm sure we're going to have some player move stuff from Vince at Let's Talk Paintball, potentially some news about the WNXL.
Right?
And then hopefully the second place coach. That's our plan.
Right.
And then kind of going forward, we want to make sure you guys understand too, it's not just going to be about Major League Paintball news. We're also going to bring lots of field things in. We're going to geek out for usually about half the show. We're going to geek out with you guys. If there's things that you want to see us talk about, if you have questions about something you saw on Go Sports or even on the semi-pro field, things you're seeing on YouTube, post that up. Put it in the comments of the show. We want to go back and look at those things, and we'll explain what happened in something. If you have a rule question, send that to us. We want to get with Jason and get you clarification. We also have access to Dan, who runs all of the divisional fields from a referee perspective. So we want to help give you guys information that's helpful for you to better understand the game, better understand the direction of Major League Paintball, and then we want to geek out as much as possible. So anything we can do to help do those things, please feed us information. We just want to make this better, and the reality of how we make that better is for you to participate in the show.
And we love to have you participate. So now they need to go like and share the MLPB YouTube channel, the MLPB Facebook page, the MLPB Instagram page, and don't forget to follow the Coaches Show.
Yeah, both on Instagram and Facebook. You can find us at The Coaches Show Live. Kind of one last point to that. Our show will be every Tuesday at 10 o'clock. We're hoping our show will go live every day. And I shouldn't say live. We'll be posted every Tuesday, 10 o'clock. We'll be able to hopefully have that done. Mike and I do have real lives, but our plan, every Tuesday, 10 o'clock on the Major League Paintball YouTube, you'll be able to find the show.
I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to doing it, especially the geeking out part with the analysis and the breakdowns of maybe points, plays, matches.
Absolutely.
I can't wait. That's what gets me excited.
Me too, and I'm loving having the opportunity and the ability to get other coaches on, get their perspective, and we're going to share some things too about what we see as coaches. What are we looking at on the box? We want to help new coaches who are trying to understand what we do and how we do it to have a better understanding of that. So with that, I am Ryan Gray with The Coaches Show, here with
Michael Bianca of the Coaches Show in the New Orleans Hurricanes.
and Mike Bianca. His team went 1-3. Who'd you guys lose to, by the way?
Oh yeah, okay. Here we go.
I get 4 months to do this. I get 4 months to do this.
Did we meet twice before this match?
I don't know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
there it is. We
Short
met twice
memory,
before.
short memory.
But you're
short
right,
memory.
though. No one remembers that, right? But congratulations and well done and well played.
I was glad I caught you guys at the
Do
right
it.
time.
Do it 100%, because I'm trying to. We recognize that we are limitless.
You gotta be a champion, become a champion, right? Winning is a habit because we create habits that lead to good execution and success.